Xi Van Fleet, welcome to Dad Saves America.
Well, thank you so much. It means a lot for me to be invited to your show. Love your show.
Oh, that's really nice of you to say. Well, I was excited when you reached out, and also you had retweeted, I think, a clip from one of our videos about a story that I have known about for a long time, which was this story of the small village in China that essentially invented capitalism under the threat of death in order to survive. They invented for themselves private property, keeping the fruits of your labor, and instantly became the most wealthy village in the area. And had it happened just a short while prior, when Mao was still alive, they all would have been executed. And I frankly wanted to make this film and make it into like a film or something. But I'm excited.
This is an extraordinary story. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is your book, Mao's America. You were there. You saw this, and it's so important. I'm so happy to have you so that you can share your experience firsthand, both there and the way you see the culture in the United States. Because as an American by choice, as you say, our kids don't get taught any of this history. They just don't. They only get that Hitler was a bad guy, and if that's the only history lesson they get, they miss out on a lot of other bad guys like Mao Zedong. So, let's start with your first bit of activism here in America. You sort of popped onto the scene because of a school board meeting, if I recall. So let's start there. What happened? What did you see, and why did you feel you had to speak out? All right, I'll keep this quick. If you like what you're hearing and want to hear more, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our new content as it comes out every week. And now, back to the conversation.
Yes, I call myself an accidental activist. And I came here to United States in 1986. It's been a long time. Next year will be my 40 years anniversary.
Wow.
And so I have to say, when I left China, came here, I thought I left communism behind me. I absolutely believe it. There's nothing can go wrong in this great country. And the freedom just is a given. And I think a lot of people still, a lot of immigrants still kind of have that thought. They just take it for granted. And that's what happened to me for years. I have been focusing on achieving my American dream. And I just, get a degree first and get married and get my green card and citizenship and job and house and cars and have a family. And I had all of those. And I'm really, nothing is easy, but I believe I had my American dream. It's a small version, but it's big for me. And so did not pay much attention to politics and always participated in the presidential election, but really have no understanding of issues. I said, well, just two parties, they all have the best interests in mind. They just have a different way of getting there. And so it's been like that for years until I start to notice things here and there. I still did not, political correctness is the first thing that I noticed that kind of remind me of Mao's China. But, I did not lose sleep over it. And until much later, I start to see more and more troubling signs. And, turning point, 2020. That is absolutely unmistaken to me. This is a Marxist cultural revolution. This is the cultural revolution that I experienced 50 years ago. So that was the time when I decided I got to do something. And so I joined the local political Republican committee and a women's Republican committee in Logan County. That's my where I live,
Yeah.
and then got involved. And I just volunteered to be the precinct captain for my district. But I still feel that's not enough. And eventually, I got an email from the committee to go to school board. By then, I have no children. My child is gone from college already. I feel like, should I go there? They say, absolutely, you're a taxpayer. So, and I said, okay, yeah, I have a lot of issues with the schools. I have a lot of issues with the educational system. So I went there, and 1 minute, that is the limit. And so, and many people saw my video, and I was so happy to have to wear a mask, because I feel like it's like protection, because this was my first time going to have a little public speaking.
Yes.
And I really did not expect that much. And I thought, I'm talking the obvious. This is the very American version of Chinese Cultural Revolution. Well, I was totally wrong. And people got like really, really shocked about my message. And actually, I remember the following day, I listened to Charlie Kirk all the time. And he played my video, no, the audio. I listened to his podcast. And then phone calls started coming in. I was like, what I said is something everyone knew, but of course it's not the case. And so, and then Fox News called. And then Hannity, producer, called.
Yep.
And that to me is a major, major decision to make. I was so scared. I was not just scared to go public, but I was scared of my job, my family in China, and it's just so many things. And I said, I know if I said yes, there's no going back. And I don't know how, but I made a kind of fast decision. I said yes. And I said, because this is much bigger than myself, than anything, because this is about America. So each time I remember that, thinking about that moment, I got very emotional. Never spoke publicly, and all of a sudden, the following day, live interview by and Hannity. I guess I said whatever I could, and it went viral again. And then, invitation pouring in. People asking me to speak or to have interview. Through that process, I really realized people don't know. People have no idea what happened in China, what happened in communist countries. And that became really, really alarming to me. So I said, I have to do more than just have an interview here, 40 minutes, or a few minutes in like a soundbite. I have to do more. So I quit my job in 2020, and I wrote this book. I have never imagined I would write a book. Never. I mean, it's just like writing a book is to be an author. I was like, you have to be a scholar. But everything just, I really feel like it's a calling from above. And I just answered the call. And I just spoke and wrote. And then the book came into being, and the people really, really liked it. There's so many people told me that was an eye opener. So that's a long story about a short question. I'm sorry.
No, we're a long form show, so that's perfectly fine. One of the things that I'm curious about is what was there a particular thing that happened in that time that just struck you as going beyond, it's one thing to see like political incorrectness in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And it's another, but you know, to feel like you had to step out, you had to make your, you know, put yourself into public scrutiny for this. What was the thing? Was it the riots in the summer of 2020? Was it the censorship that seemed to be happening on Twitter? Like, what was it what was happening in schools? What was there one thing that really sort of said, oh, this is going too far, we're getting into dangerous territory?
I can't say it's one thing. It's a revolution. It's like everything that hit at the same time. It's chaos, violence, and the cancel culture go wild. And that is cultural revolution that I experienced, the same thing. And people ask me to recall my memory of the cultural revolution. I say it's just like 2020. It's like overnight. And it's just like a revolution swept through everything. And the chaos is one of the things. People on the street, and then instead of Antifa, it's Red Guards. And instead of tearing down statues of first Confederate soldiers and then generals, and then George Washington and Jefferson, and then Jesus, you know, and it's just like China. And they tore down all the statues, and then we'll have a name for it. It's destroy the four O's. And here is just simply cancel culture. On the street, the white people were asked to confess their sin. They have to kneel for the crimes of supposedly the ancestor, and that is what happened in China too. And the people whose parents used to own land or whose parents were condemned, they are all become sinners, and they become the target of revolution, and then really the target of violence. And so to me, it's just an absolute repeat. So it's a revolution. That's probably the best way to describe, not one thing, because so many things happened in the same time. I think a lot of people, I'm sure, including you, was like, what is happening to our country?
So I want to come back to the present here as we sit here, because a lot's happened in the past 5 years since 2020, including the re-election of Donald Trump, which is a very interesting moment in American history, given how crazy everything got. It was quite a strange reversal. But before we get to that, I want to go back to the beginning. So how old were your first memories of China? And maybe even more importantly, you know, how do you think about what Chinese culture was? It's a very old culture. It's a culture with dynasties that go back thousands of years. And so this sort of Maoist period is very strange in the broader history of China. It's a complete attempt to tear down one of the oldest civilizations on planet Earth. How did you understand, like, take me back to your earliest memories of living in China, being a young person, and what did you understand of what it meant to be Chinese then?
Yes, I was very young. I was just turning 7 when the Cultural Revolution started. So my memory before that was peaceful. Maybe, you know, it's not, nothing is peaceful in China, but at least to me, it was somewhat eventless. So there was this contract of day and night of the Cultural Revolution. But this much I can say, I was, you know, as a toddler, you know, 6, I really can't remember anything about culture. But I do remember that there was nothing really pretty to see. Okay, what that means is that I remember going to there was like a 1 or 2 parks in the city that my parents would take me there, and then zoo. But I really don't see anything like a culture that remind me of some kind of a culture. And then I remember going to temples, but that was turned into a park. So
Really?
so all the temples were turned into parks. So what I have to say is that I have no exposure to any Chinese culture before the Cultural Revolution. And at that time, actually by then, most of the heritage was destroyed already. So this is something that people need to know. Now we more and more people are aware of this cultural Marxism, right? They want to destroy culture and really destroy the Western culture, American culture, and replace it with the Marxist culture. But actually, destroying culture, destroying civilization is in the DNA of Marxism, even in classic Marxism. They did that day one. They took over power in China, and that's 1949. One of the first thing they did is the land reform, is to really confiscate the land from landowners and give to the peasants. In the process, they kill up to 2 million landowners. What does that mean? Not just they killed people who own land. Those were country gentries. They are absolutely the ones that were educated. They were mostly in the village, were looked upon as the learned people, and they're the transmitter of Chinese culture, all wiped out, all wiped out. So by the time that I was born and start to have memory, I have nothing exposed to me of this thing called Chinese culture and the Chinese civilization. It's already kind of gone. But the Cultural Revolution itself just finished it up.
Yeah,
So it
why?
did not start with the Cultural Revolution. It
Yeah,
started with communists.
it's how long were you there before coming to the States?
Yeah, the Cultural Revolution lasted for 10 years, from 1966 to 1976. That's at the time when Mao died. That marked the end of the Cultural Revolution. That was my school years. By the time I graduated from high school in 1975, at the age of 16, I was sent to the countryside and to get my re-education. So I lived through the entire Cultural Revolution from beginning to the end. And I worked in the countryside, the gulags, for 3 years. And when Mao's successor, Deng Xiaoping, finally decided to open up university, and I was able to go. And I was lucky, I was only 19, and I was able to go to college. For a lot of young people, they never recovered from that. They were sent to the countryside 10 years ago. They stayed in the countryside for 10 years. By the time they came back to the city, they missed everything. They missed university because they were too old for university. They're called the lost generation. Those were the Red Guards. And probably we're gonna talk more about the Red Guards.
Oh, for sure. So you're wow, you were there. So basically, your entire childhood
Yes.
was. And what happened to your parents during this time?
Well, so people ask me, okay, I have to go back to the beginning. And I had 1 semester of so-called normal education of my first grade. Normal means there's no Cultural Revolution. It's indoctrination for sure, but it was not as crazy, as chaotic as Cultural Revolution. So entering my second grade, that's Cultural Revolution. School just totally just shut down because there's no one running the school. Everyone in power, in position of power, like principals and administrators, were ousted by the kids because they were condemned as the enemy. They were condemned as the enemy who want to carry this bourgeois agenda to indoctrinate. That just silly or what? To indoctrinate the kids. So they were ousted. And so one day I went to the classroom and I saw the notes on the blackboard. And the teacher told us there's no school for 3 days. And that 3 days, turned into 2 years.
Wow, so the
No
schools just
school.
shut down. Just
Shut down. Yeah, no. In certain areas, as long as 4 years, no school, nothing. So, and people ask me, how about your parents? My parents, they are doing the same thing in their workplace. The same thing. It's just catch the what's called so-called capitalist roaders. Capitalist roaders, meaning are the people who want to take us back to capitalism, and they were the people mostly in power, in position of power. They're doing the same thing. They have to join the revolution. They have to participate. They have to do all this political studies to examine themselves. They were not whole. Okay, so I was left alone with my sister. I was 7. My sister was 4, and I become the mother. And so for 2 years,
wow.
absolutely total chaos, total chaos. And the chaos turned into violence.
When did you first remember feeling like something was off, or something that's so young to experience all of this political insanity and violence? Was it what was it like? What was it like? What was it like to see the world, your world, changing in that way? Did you like help me understand what the experience was like?
I know. You are thinking as a normal person growing up in America. I never questioned anything. That's what I really want people to know, what it feels like when you're so indoctrinated since you're a baby. I never thought, I never questioned. Whatever happened is supposed to be the way. Yeah, Mao wants us to have a revolution. He has a good reason. We, as his little children, that's what we call ourselves. We're the children of Mao. We join. We follow the order. You never question. Even though you said this is chaos, but hey, if that's Mao's chaos, it's good chaos. I never question anything. Never.
You know, when I think about, China at this moment is an impoverished place, right? I mean, it's not, for a young person today that sees China and thinks about this powerhouse economy that's the second biggest economy next to the United States and is producing all these high-tech products, like that's all in the past 30, 40 years. China in the 70s and 80s was a desperately poor country. How did Mao even get this to happen? It's a large country, it's a large population. How did he manage to maintain that kind of control over so many people in such a large area, do you think?
That's a big question. And that we have to go back to the beginning when they took over power in 1949. And Mao launched one political campaign after another, nonstop. Actually, it's very important to learn about all those political campaigns. That's before my time. One of the big campaign was the Great Leap Forward. I don't know whether you have heard about that.
Yeah, no, please dive in.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm aware of it, but it's a...
Yeah, so, and before that, there was a lot of, I mentioned that just briefly about the land reform. But after that, the land reform was taking the land from the landowners and gave to the peasants through violence. So you can't just go there. So, okay, I get a piece of land from the CCP. No, you have to fight, you have to kill in order to get the land. So that was a violent campaign. And that's the promise of the revolution. That's why so many peasants supported Mao's revolution. And so they had land for about 4 years. And then all the land were taken back by the state. The story is, and that is the beginning of the story you covered of Xiaogang village. So since 1958, all the land were taken back by the state. Said, you don't need the land. Everyone owned the land. That's called the People's Commune. So we
Right.
all own the land. Because this is communism, this is socialism. You don't have to work on your land. We work together, and then the future is bright. And then Mao, that is amazing. He has control of everything. So now everyone become landless. Everyone become the member of the commune, people's commune. And so he decided now the number one priority is to become industrialized. And we need what? Steel. We have to have steel. So the slogan is that we're going to surpass UK in 10 years, United States in 15 years in steel production. Yeah, because of steel. It has nothing to do with making people raise their standard of living. Of course, it's about state power. So everyone have to make steel, including the peasants. Now the peasants are all the members of the commune, and he have total control of them. So everyone started to make steel with the backyard furnace everywhere. Students, kids, and cadres, teachers, everyone, the whole country is engaged in making steel.
In back,
That's the insanity. Yes, you can.
I mean, I'm thinking about. I'm no expert in like heavy industry, but as I understand it from documentaries I've seen, and I actually grew up in Allentown, which was the Lehigh Valley.
Yeah.
So Bethlehem Steel was this big powerhouse of American industry, and it was a steel. These are gigantic factories. There's with huge furnaces to be able to take the iron ore and turn and melt it down, and whatever the process is to produce steel. They're massive. They're massive to end up with usable. It's like, I don't even know, like, what does that even mean to be doing a backyard furnace to create steel?
Yeah, because you're not a communist. Mao believed the power of the people. Absolutely, the power of the people. The power of the people can make miracles. So that's what everyone did. So of course, there's nothing to make steel with, but there's a quota for every village, school, neighborhood, whatever. And so people just search their house, pot, spoon, utensil, doorknobs, everything. Metal, that is metal, and throw into the furnace and come out junk. Okay, so
you're basically melting down. You were melting your houses to make steel. And did they provide these backyard furnaces? What were these backyard furnaces?
You can Google and find the picture. They made it. And then they deforest mountains after mountains and use wood and because of the quota. If you don't finish it, you're going to be in trouble. Okay, so one of the things happened is that no one was attending the fields. So the crop field, because all the young men or young women, strong laborers, they were gone. They were out making steels. So steel field, there's no steel they made that was usable. They made usable items into non-usable whatever.
Yeah, just melted garbage.
Melted into into like a rock of something. Okay, and also the crops failed, and that was the beginning of the Great Famine. I was born in 1959. That was the beginning of the famine, and up to 50 million people were killed, died of starvation. Mostly were the peasants, and so I was too young to remember, but I hear stories, horror stories, from my mother and from other elders, and so most of the people who died were the people in the countryside, because in the city, they have some kind of ration, even though very limited. But in the countryside, all the grain were taken. Whatever left, even the grain for seeds were taken. 50-some million people starved to death. That is because Mao's ambition of surpassing United States and UK. So even though it's under communist rule, it's still a big deal. It's still a big deal. 50-some million people died of starvation. So within the party, they started to doubt his leadership. And Mao was forced to admit that his policy failed. And then he has to be sidelined. And then there are especially two people. One is Deng Xiaoping. I think people probably know about. He's the successor of Mao after Mao's death. And another leader, he was the president of China, Liu Shaoqi. So they too were put in charge of the economy and to bring back, to recover from the disaster. And that was in 1962. Okay, so Mao, but for ordinary Chinese, he was still our great leader. They did not really know what's going on inside the party. So he still had, people have no idea what really happening behind, the closed door.
Yeah.
But he feel like he's losing power. He was losing power. So he spent like 3 years planning a comeback. And in 1966, he launched the Cultural Revolution.
So I didn't realize this about that period, that this was motivated by this political comeback.
It's all about that. It's about power. So it's very, very hard to explain, but I hope your listener will understand. So the Cultural Revolution is a revolution against the CCP, against Mao's own government, because the goal was to take over the power from those that he feel like were not were not following him or betrayed him. That means everybody in power, he want to take them out. So that's from central government to local government to village level. I mean, everybody. And so this is the thing that, but how to do that? He could not really use the army, because that will look like it's a coup, right? It's
right.
You're unseating the people of your own party, of your own government. So he has a better idea. And now you probably figure out what's his better idea. The kids.
Right.
The kids. Yeah. So it's the college kids, college and down all the way down to elementary school kids.
So how did he? So Mao. How did he actually go about recruiting these young people who would be? This is the Red Guard you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And there's actually an incredible. You've probably seen this sequence in this Netflix series called the Three Body Problem, and the opening of the show takes place in Maoist China during the Cultural Revolution, and you see these absolutely possessed young people trotting people out, beating them to death, putting the dunce caps on them, the sort of murderous struggle sessions. But how did he do that? How did he get the students from across the country to just turn into this monstrous foot soldier of doom?
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned that. That is like a 5 minutes or 7 minutes.
Yeah.
That is pretty accurate. And that happened in universities. So, and because they were struggle against the professors, right? What I saw is in elementary school. And of course, it's younger kids. They were just too young to do real violence, but they attacked the teachers. And I witnessed one of the attacks of a teacher. They condemned as bourgeois because she wanted to look pretty, and when I say pretty, it's just minor. Probably she did extra care about her hair, or she just looked very clean and tidy, and that's bourgeois. So they went after her. They called her name, surrounded her. It's like 50 kids, and start to spit on her. And so by the time it's over, she's covered all over by spit. And so she was lucky because she was not harmed. But in high school, middle school, and college, real violence. Okay, I have to go back to your question. How did Mao get all of them organized?
Yes.
And it's not, the thing is that it's not overnight. It took 17 years since the day that they took power, 1949 to 1966. The party had total control of the educational system. So we can understand why the kids now are so indoctrinated. They have decades in America that control the school. But that 17 years was enough for them to, for Mao to indoctrinate an entire generation of young people who knew nothing of the past. I was one of them. I was too young to be a red guard. I knew nothing about Chinese culture, civilization, or nothing. I was taught everything in the past is bad, is evil. It should be destroyed. And so we don't know anything of the past, and we believe everything's in the future. We believe that everything we have today was great because Mao took us out of the evil past and gave us, we call it the new society, new China. And we were taught that we are the luckiest children in the world because we're born into this new China, and we have the life that was the envy of the world. And we believed it. And well, they say, how can you believe how stupid it is? I did not know anything else. Everything they told me is the only source of information. I believed everything. And so that is why by the time the Mao, and they are also taught that Mao is our real parent. Mao is our great leader, our savior, and our real parent. So you listen to him and you answer, and your greatest honor and duty is to defend Mao. Now Mao asks you to do one thing. Mao told us that we are in danger. China is in danger. Our educational system has been infiltrated by the bourgeois, by those capitalist rollers. The people want to take us back to capitalism. They are evil people. We have to get them out. That's it. That's it. Okay, but it's more than that. The story is fascinating. Okay,
Yeah.
there's no social media, right? There's hardly any ways of communication among the young people across a huge country. So what did Mao do? So first of all, he went to Tiananmen Square and met with about 1 million Red Guards in Beijing. And you
1
probably saw
million.
some.
Yeah, I've
1
seen some
million.
of this footage. Yeah.
Yes, you saw the picture of him wearing the army uniform and wave at these young people who just absolutely, they're just like seeing their God. They're ready to do anything. But that's not it. That's only about 1 million people in Beijing and around Beijing. So Mao did it 7 more times. So how did he do that? The words came out that anyone can come to Beijing to meet Mao. Mao was going to meet all these red guards. But travel was extremely rare in China, and it's expensive. And you can't. I can't even go into the detail that travel was absolutely a luxury. Most people growing up just within their walking distance of the where they were born. And I did not go anywhere outside my city until much later. But he gave the order. Any young kid can come to Beijing free of charge. They can go to the train, and in each city, there will be receiving stations to welcome them, feed them, put them in dorms or whatever. So 8 more million kids went to Beijing. And that is the social media of the day. They
Wow.
absolutely started to talk to each other, and then they started to learn about the lessons from those in Beijing. They're supposed to be more. They're supposed to know more. They know how to carry out this revolution. So by the time he was there 8 times for the young people over the country. Everyone was mobilized. Everyone, all the young people, all over, including people in Tibet.
Yeah, when you think about that period of time, the technology, the scale of that mobilization is just hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine,
It's hard.
I mean, I assume that in your home, you did not have electricity. Is that right?
No, we have electricity in the city, not in the
city,
countryside.
but not in the countryside,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So did you live more in the city?
I live in the city. Yes.
Okay. So what was he telling the kids to do? What was their directive?
Their directive is take down the people in power, and your principals, your teacher, your mayor, your governor, whoever in power, because that was his goal. But in the very beginning, they were giving go ahead to destroy everything that is considered old, the 4 olds: old ideas, old culture, old habits, and old custom. That means anything that's left in China that's considered old. Statues, temples, churches, and mosques, books, everything. Everything has to be destroyed. And the names of the streets, most of the names is traditional. That's not good enough. Has to be changed. The street name changed, institution name changed, and the kids start to change their own names to be politically correct. They changed their name from traditional name into revolutionary name.
Give me an
And
example of that. What was it? What was a revolutionary name? Like,
okay. For example, in the street, we have a place that's called Chunxi District. Chunxi means spring splendor. It's just a nice name, That's that is changing into anti-imperialism road or revolutionary road.
I'm laughing, but it's all horrible. But
It's absolutely. You can even find footage of red guards changing the street names, take down the sign and put the new sign there. They're all revolutionary. And the names of the personal names, like my name is Xi. Okay, Xi means west. That was problematic in the eyes of the red guards. West. What do you mean? You mean the West? Western power, Western imperialism, and I was pressured to change my name. And fortunately, my parents said, "Tell your friends or the Red Guards that your name is from the city you were born, Xi'an." That was the Asian capital. But my friends, left and right, changed their names into something like Red Guards. Red Guards is a popular name. And so there was a story of this young man. He changed his name from whatever into Red Guard with his parents' approval. And then later, he reported his mother at home in private setting, complain about Mao, and report to the party. And his mom was arrested, and 2 months later was executed. So that was how I don't even know the word for it. It's absolutely insanity. Everyone want to prove themselves to be revolutionary. And so, and mostly it's the people that are supposed to be weaker, they will prove that they are strong. So the first killing took place and during the Cultural Revolution in Beijing's girls' middle school. So a bunch of girls from 12 to 16, they got their principal on the stage, denounced her, beat her up, and killed her. And that was the first killing during the Cultural Revolution. Cultural Revolution started in May 1966. And then the killing took place in August 1966. Only 3 years, only 3 months. So during that 3 months, it started with destroying statues, changing names, burning books, to killing.
In a very real sense, like teenagers, young adults, I mean, they're just they're very receptive to this because they're the new generation. They don't want to listen. It's not fun to be told what to do by older people that in authority. It seems like a big part of what Mao was doing, and frankly, what our school system has done that follows him when, in different ways, was just preying on this like sort of teenage angst, like this, youthful zeal to want to be the new thing and out with the old, in with the new. We're the new generation. That, I don't need to listen to you because you're my parents and you don't know anything. It's like, how much, like, is that how you understand why young people took to this? Is that not really, was there something else going on?
That's part of it. That's part of it. But I think the real reason is Mao gave them the power. Mao openly on the Tiananmen Square tower said he said, "You are my Red Guards. I'm your Red Commander in Chief. I am behind you. I support you. That means I grant you the permission to do whatever. It's power. It's when they know that they have the backing of Mao, they could do anything and no one can stop them." And you would ask, well, where are the police? Well, there's no such thing as defund the police. The police were totally dismantled. There's no police. And so they could do whatever. So all you need to do is to wear a badge, said Red Guards, and you have the power to destroy, you have the power to kill. Many, many young kids killed people just because they could.
As I understand it, the Red Guard got too crazy even for Mao. Is that right?
That is okay. I have to go back a little bit with the story. The first group of the Red Guards, the ones that destroyed the statues and destroyed temples and churches, and went after people who were already labeled enemy of the state. But they soon learned that's not really Mao's intention. Mao's intention actually were their parents. So the first group of Red Guards were the children of the elites. Okay, so they said, they thought that's about destroying the tradition, destroying the past, and but no, and then they realized their parents were Mao's real target. By then, more other people. By then, Red Guards were no longer elite organization, so other people joined in. Those people were the victims of those CCP elites. They hate those CCP elites who have to rule over them, like the new ruling class. So they really went after those leaders, so-called political leaders, and absolutely violently just went after them. I saw the struggle session of the governor of my province.
What was that like? What happened?
So they have a big stage. So in that particular setting, and there was steps leads to an entrance of a big hall. So he was on the top, and and he has to wear a big sign, and the sign has his name on it and used the crossed out, and he was called the capitalist, the number one capitalist ruler of Sichuan province. So I was too young to understand that they're reading all this, like a denunciation. He did this, this, and this, and this. All this is against Mao, and then he put on the truck, and then they parade him around the city, and so that happened almost daily. Someone will be on the truck, and and it's all those people in position of power, because they were Mao's enemy, and all the people that got them were the Red Guards. Does it make sense?
It does. I mean, none of it really makes sense, but it just reminds me of this this thing that is just dark and hard for a lot of people to accept, with it, which is that every person has within them sort of dark capability. It's like, there's the quote from Solzhenitsyn, the Soviet writer, that the line between good and evil cuts through the heart of every man. Like we all have good and evil in us.
That is absolutely the demonstration that the kids, I mean, seemingly normal kids, turned into killers pretty much overnight.
Yes, it sounds like Lord of the Flies. It's just a total animalistic behavior. The going after your parents is so hard to imagine, because it's such a close bond.
Here is really, people need to understand, when you're indoctrinated, you absolutely could not think. So once your parents were denounced, you don't have a choice but denouncing them. So there's a lot of stories and of kids join the Red Guards and beat up, even kill their parents. Because you don't have a choice. If you try to, here is the story of my governor, not my governor, but the governor of the province. So he was repeatedly struggled against, going through the struggle session for about 100 times or something like that. And his son was attending college in Beijing. He want to defend his father. He basically said, my father was not against Mao. He was a good comrade. He was a good communist. He was beaten to death. And before he died, he was dragged to the crematory and burned pretty much alive. That's what happened to you if you want to defend your parents who were denounced by Mao. That's what happened to you.
It's, it's a true reign of absolute terror. And we had done a video about the aftermath of the French Revolution, which had similar reigns of terror. Robespierre, the Jacobins. It's so funny. We have this there was this Jacobin magazine was started here in the U.S. after the financial crisis in 2008. Oh, we're Jacobin magazine. It's like they're celebrating this like murder band that killed over 20,000 people in the aftermath of the French Revolution. Just basically like, it's like the same people. It's the elders, anyone that had accomplished anything. How much of it was just jealousy? It seems like it's very direct. This activity was all directed at those who are older or in any kind of position of authority. So was he really tapping into just jealousy to stoke this violence?
I think so. And this is something that a lot of people overlooked. Why Mao could mobilize so many people. In the beginning, it was kids in college or high school or elementary school. Later, the factory workers joined in, mostly young people, because they absolutely hate those who have been ruling over them. So do you see that? Yeah. Mao knew that those people hate those party leaders, party bosses, in every level. That's why those people just absolutely joined in and really took those people they hate without mercy. I think that's it's not envy; it is resentment and hatred, and so eventually, 20-some million people lost their lives during the Cultural Revolution.
It seems like there's like a leap that's made here. I'm grappling with this a little bit because it's just like hearing you talk about it, and it's just so disturbing. It just is like the stuff of pure nightmares. It's hard to imagine it happening as an American. Even with the craziness of 2020 and the BLM riots and burning, it's still like that. It still is just it's so small in comparison. Like
no, it's only that it echoed to the Cultural Revolution. No, it's not, and it's the beginning of the Cultural Revolution was like that. But I just said that it did not take that long. Only about 3 months into actual violence, and so after 2 years, the Red Guards pretty much finished the job. Every person in power that disproved by Mao, usually it's like you can't even argue. It's just if you're in power, a position of power, you're out. So in 2 years, they did that. And then what happened? They thought, well, we did this for Mao. Now it's time for us to think about getting a seat at the table. That's how they thought. They started to fight each other for power. And that was the time that China was descent into civil war. In the beginning, it was sticks, rocks, or just bare hands. They took down those capitalist rulers. But when they start to fight each other, they absolutely raided the military bases, and they got real guns, and they got tanks, and start to fight each other. And that's when the time that it's not safe for us to go out street at all. And so one day a bullet landed just below our window when we were having dinner. It's just a straight bullet. It's just like a killing. It's like a random. But eventually it got so out of control. Mao said, "That's enough. Enough is enough." So he sent the military to take care of the most violent faction. I don't know how many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands were killed. This time by the military. And so then eventually he summoned the leaders, Red Guard leaders in Beijing, and say, "You disappointed me. and now you're out, and no more red guards, and send all of them to the countryside to get their re-education. That's what happened to the useful idiots that I so badly want people, the Antifas or BMMers, to learn.
Yeah,
This
this
is
is the
going to happen
thing.
to them.
This is the thing that seems to be it recurs throughout history, the history of communism, is that you just have these. And I mean, people like Lenin, I think it's Lenin who coined the term useful idiots, if I remember correctly.
Yes, yes, yeah.
It's transparent that you're just being used for the power, for the people that want to have this utopian vision and think they can deliver utopia if only they have total power. Is that how you think about it? Why do you think what motivated Mao from your perspective?
It's power, and power is never enough, and he wants absolute power. So, and this is something I think I try to make it understandable for people here. And it's not really about woke. It's not really about oppressed people, marginalized people, about DEI. It's about power. It's everything we talk about is because Mao want to secure power. And what's happening here is the same. It's about power. Everything we see is just tactics.
We've been working on this series called The Death of Debate, which we released. And one of the things that motivated it was that the high school clubs, the debate clubs across America, we have these judges, some of whom have called themselves Maoists, and that you can find. And I've spoken to students on college campuses, and you can find it among professors, and especially in the liberal arts. There are a lot today, as we sit here, American intellectuals that call themselves Maoists proudly. I mean, how that just must be. How do you even deal with that? Like to have lived through this mass murder, and then to have like coddled professors and young Americans who are also incredibly coddled adopt this man and his ideology as their guiding light, as the sort of as a kind of great political scholar. How does that make you feel? Like how do you understand that's even possible?
I know. I can't believe it, but I understand it. They are indoctrinated just like I was indoctrinated. They don't know anything of the history. They definitely did not read my book. And that is why. See, when we were taught that capitalism was evil, that and America was a place, it was an evil empire, and it's a place for a few rich on the top, and everyone was oppressed. They were poor. And I remember I saw this cartoon, and it's that to me become the image of America is that the skyscrapers, but under it was the broken cars, and those are the poor people live there. And so I probably saw it in the my book or whatever. And so I believed it. So I believed that I was so lucky to be born and live in China. And so when they erase history, when they rewrite history or omit, and you don't know what you don't know. I think that's what happened in America, that we have lost control of our educational system for decades. And they don't know. They were taught that Mao was a national hero for the Chinese because he defeated the imperialists. he defeated capitalists and made China a place that for everyone. If you don't know, you don't know. The only thing is that I would say that in China, they physically control the source of information. I could not find a book that told me different. I have no access to radio. And here I just do want to say that if you have a short waved radio, and some people dare their lives, risk their lives to listen to Voice of America and BBC and Free Asia, Radio Free Asia, things like that. I never dare to do that. I know that that's dangerous. If you do that, you will get and you will get arrested. Some get executed. It's like this. Even though the Marxists in America, they could not control all the source of information. They could not. But those people, the students, the young people, they were so indoctrinated, they did not even want to go to find out. Just click away to see what the other side is saying. They don't even want to do that. Just like when I grew up in China. So you absolutely believe what you're taught. So Mao was a national hero, and he fight for the people. And that today, like Hassan Piker.
Yes.
Is a shining example. He has no understanding of communism. And he thought, or he thinks, he's an expert of the evil of capitalism. And so that's where we are today. And so we now, and just 2 days ago, I think we see the high school walkout in Minnesota against ICE, because they don't know anything better. They just absolutely believe what they were taught.
Yeah,
and that's why I think Save America, Dad Save America, and Mom Save America. We have to save the kids. Really, we have to save the kids.
Hassan Piker has. I saw a video where he was watching a woman like yourself who had escaped. If I remember this correctly, it was Cambodia.
A Vietnamese woman.
No, it was she was Vietnamese.
Yeah,
and and he just. Absolutely. When she, the second she talked about the horrors of communism, I mean, this is like the mass murder of Ho Chi Minh. Mm-hmm. He just mercilessly mocked this woman. Yeah. And it's like, it's just, well, this is the thing that is, it's so transparent, right? That you have someone, these people who claim to care about marginalized people and the oppressed. And it's pretty clear that that's not true, that that's not really what's going on. Because if you cared about the oppressed and you saw a minority immigrant woman talking about oppression, but it's not the ideology you really want, suddenly all that concern about the marginal and the oppressed goes out the door and you're just a monster.
And here I really want to, I will try to make it short, but I want to make this point. And that's what the Chinese communists let the peasants believe, that this revolution was about them. Because back before 1949, and up to 90% of the Chinese population were peasants, or rural peasants. Yeah. So he promised them free land. Join my revolution. When we succeed, we're going to have land and give it to you. And so it's very, very appealing. So that's how they won the revolution. They mobilized the peasants and won the victory for them. So I talked a little bit about the land reform. So they were given land, and then the land were taken, and then they become landless. But more so, there is something else they did. They, in the early 1950s, they divided Chinese population into two categories by this household registration system. You are pinned down to where you're born. So if you're a peasant, you're a peasant for life. You can't move anywhere you want. if you're in the city, you become like an urban resident, but you can't move to another city. So, I lived in Chengdu. It's the capital of Sichuan province. I can't just go to Beijing and say I want to live in Beijing. I want to live in Shanghai. You have to have that your household resident registration changed, which was extremely difficult. So back to the peasants. The peasants were promised land, they lost the land. And the peasants were promised their life would be better. They're pinned down to the land and they become serfs. And that still lasted until today. So when China started to open up and the peasants were able to go to cities to work, but they never able to live there and enjoy the benefit of being a resident. So their children can't go to school there because the household registration system. So they become the second tier. They become the second class citizen. Communism promise the better life for those oppressed, because that's what they claim to fight, that they fight for. The fight for the oppressed, the fight for the poor, the fight for the marginalized. And the people really need to know the story of what happened to Chinese peasants. They were the backbone of Chinese communist revolution because they were promised land. And if you fight with us, when we succeed, we're going to get the land from the landowners, and you're going to be better off. And that's very, very appealing for people live in the countryside, and the land is everything. So they joined the revolution. They helped the CCP to win to take over China. And then they were given land after the land reform, only for a few years, and everything was taken back by the state. And we did talk about that earlier. And then they become landless. Everyone become landless and become a member of the commune. They have no control of what they want to plant because it's all planned by the party boss. And because I was there, I worked in the countryside for 3 years, and so they don't get what their labor. They don't get paid with their labor. Most of the things that they produce were taken by the state. That's why that you did that story of that village, that they come to the point that they have to make a choice, either death by starvation or death by execution for violating the law. The law is that the land is not yours. You have to listen to the party boss direction, what to plant, how to plant, and whatever. And then they run the risk. And so there's a really, really touching story that they signed a contract with their blood. They say, we are all in this together. The land is not ours, but we will pretend that each household will take responsibility. We were not telling anyone. And if somehow the party boss found it out and we were executed, and the village will help to help our family. And they took that kind of risk so that each household became responsible for a certain plot of land. And they know what's best to plant. They know that if they plant, and then they will get more of their labor, then they can produce so much they can satisfy the quota for the state. They have more left. That's how that story become the beginning of the reform and open up in China, because this is a story that shows communism will kill people. There's just absolutely, there's no future with communism. But if you give people the responsibility and let them take charge of what to plant, then we'll have plenty. They still don't own the land. No one owns the land. But that little bit losing control shows that then people don't have to starve. That's not capitalism. It's not, because no one owns the land. Today, all the land, all the natural resources, every inch of China's land belong to the state, belong to the party. And then okay, I don't know. Is this something that's relevant?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that I think sometimes gets said, it is, oh no, Maoist China. Well, you have two different strands of the sort of radical academic sort of people that somehow are allowed to teach our kids while being advocates for this somehow, because we live in crazy times. But you have one that says, no, communism's great, and just outright say they think Mao was a genius. But then you have a different version of the current day communist, Marxist, socialist types who say, no, Mao wasn't good, but that wasn't real communism. That they were doing something else, because communism is a moneyless, stateless, propertyless, classless society. But there was still a communist party. That's a class. So there's no amount of attempts at communism that seem to satisfy actually being communism for this group of people, the academics in our universities that say, well, real communism's never been tried. So what do you say to someone who says, oh, that was just totalitarianism. That was kind of like fascism, really. Real communism's never been tried. You're talking about state capitalism or state fascist something, not the communism I want.
This is what I say. What happened in Mao's China was real communism. And what it brought to the Chinese people was death, starvation, and destruction. That's real communism. Communism is totalitarianism. Communism is the best example of totalitarianism, that the party controls everything, how much food you can have, what to plant, and everything, every little detail, every aspect of your life planned by and controlled by the party. That's real communism. That was starvation. Yeah, and that's the time that the real communism that I lived through. What happened after Mao was like China was in the brink of total collapse. Total collapse. There was no economy. People absolutely lived in extreme poverty. Even people in the city. Even though I did not go I did not suffer starvation, but deprived of the basics, extreme poverty. Okay, so and Deng Xiaoping realized that he had to do something. That's when he started to depart from Maoism. So he started to open up and have reform. The reform was never political. The reform, to me, is just loosen up control. Just like that village, the land still belonged to the country or to the state. But then the peasants had a little say of what they can do with the land they are supposed to be responsible for. And that ended starvation. Okay, and then they brought in foreign investment. And so if I say anything, is that, and the people say now, they basically repeat the CCP's narrative that the CCP lifted Chinese people out of poverty, but they omitted that they are the one that put the Chinese people into extreme poverty. So what worked in China today is because capitalism, even though it's not real capitalism. So what worked in China is because of capitalism. And what did not work is because of socialism and communism. And that same thing apply to America or to the West. What does not work, like New York Metro, like a welfare state, it's because of communism and because of socialism. And so this is something I really think I want to make this point. Capitalism helped China, but the capitalism can't save socialism, because China is, after all, a communist country, a socialist country, and the party would never give up its power. And so it only can go so far. And today it comes to the dead end. So capitalism lifted China up only so far. It cannot save the party. It cannot save this totalitarian regime. But on the other hand, socialism can destroy capitalism in the West, in the United States. And so today, America is more a socialist country than China. In China, if you don't work, you go hungry. There's no welfare. There's nothing. There's no social safety net in China. And in America, we have a large population, started with 17 million on SNAP, on the
food stamps.
Government. Government handout, and now ballooned into 42 million after Biden. And so this is a really sad fact that America become more socialist country than China.
Yeah, one of the things that I've always tried to explain to people about this capitalism versus communism question, because it's all ideological. It's all, I'm imagining this perfect society, this perfect world. I mean, when you talk about what Mao was doing, he was trying to rewire the Chinese people into different kinds of people. He was trying to be God, it seems like to me. What role to that end do you think the attack on religion, which was true in the Soviet Union, it was true in North Korea and Cambodia, basically every communist country went to war on religion, including and especially Mao. He called religion the opiate of the masses. Why? From your perspective, why did religion become such a central attack of the communists?
I think you brought up something really important. 2 points. I want to make 2 points. In the beginning, you said about real communism. I don't think there's such a thing as communism. Even though I said I lived through Mao's communism, it's not communism. Communism supposedly that there will be a society that there's no class, that everyone enjoy the fruit of the labor of everyone else. But it's not what happened. We live in extreme poverty, and then it's a moneyness. There's no such a thing. It's all about tactics. The end game is power. It's to control people, and so this is something that people really have to understand. There is no real communism. Everything is about power. So, and there's no such thing as we share everything. Like most of the young people think about communism, we all share. everyone has the same amount. Like Tim Walz told his students that he took to China, here everyone has enough. And he said, the doctor get paid the same as a taxi driver. It's not true. It's not like that at all. It's all about power. That's why I think it's important you brought up the religion. Why they are all after the religion? Because they want to control people's mind. And so some people say that communism is atheism. I don't think so. The more I really think about what I've been through and read more, it is a religion. It replaced the old religion. It become a new religion. And everything they did is absolutely religious. And in China, and we have a god, that is Mao. And growing up, we have our little Bible, and that is Mao's little red book. And we have a political study, which is our going to church. And we have our confession, which is criticism and self-criticism. So even as a little kid, every week we're going to have a political study session. And that session, you're going to confess. You're going to, we will read Mao's little red book, and we will say that I did not do this and this right according to Mao's instruction. And also I saw you did not do this and this right. And then so we criticize each other, and we denounce ourselves, and we swear we're going to do better. And that is that is religion. So what they want is really control people's mind. And to me, that is more dangerous than control what you can eat, where you can be, where you can go. They control people's mind. And I have to say, before I went to college, that's when China started to open up, and we could listen to like a Voice of America and BBC kind of openly. Before that, I never was able to even think. I never had one original thought. And all I did was follow instruction of the party, of what the party told me. And to me, that is real slavery. That is absolutely control everything, control your mind. And it's the worst type of slavery that ever invented. And that is communism.
So let's talk about what was it like to start to have your mind, you obviously got from a place of being in this brainwashed state, living through the Cultural Revolution, and yet here we are sitting here with you having clear eyes on what it is and coming to America. How did you bring me back to, when did your mind start to change? Because, when I think about this, so you were born into communist China, and at the earliest age of schooling, you're in Mao's Cultural Revolution. I mean, your story is actually really inspiring, because it means that even someone in the most demonic, totalitarian, brainwashing hellhole of nightmares can see the light, can change their mind, can come to think for themselves and have bravery and stand up in front of their community and tell the truth, even in fear. That's a huge transformation. So where did that start for you? How did that start to happen?
This is such a good question. And I never gave it much thought until just recently. I mean, the past few years, I really started to trace back when I started to question, when I started to think. I think it's college years. It's when I went to college in 1978. and China started to open up, and I remember that we could listen to Voice of America and BBC openly, at least in the name of learning English, because that's my major, English. And then I started to hear stories, and eventually we could watch some of the American movies or British movies. And I think that was the turning point. And I said, America is great. Look at those, I remember watching some of the movies. It was wonderful. Look at the women. They look so beautiful. We just we all had the same gray uniform. Everyone looked the same. And if you want to stand out, you're going to be in trouble. So you want to look as shabby as possible. Eventually, we able to watch some British movie and Japanese movie. I said, I was lied to. I was lied to because all my life I was told that the West is evil and it is for the few rich, and then everyone else was oppressed. So, and then you start to wonder everything else. I think that is really the turning point. So this is the power of information. The power of information.
I think about the fact that it's just actually the recognition of beauty. I'm finding very interesting, because here you were told from the earliest memory to reject what you're describing as, look at these beautiful women, look at how they're dressed, it's so beautiful, it's attractive, it's pleasing. So, one of the things that academic sort of I think lunatics try to claim is that everything is constructed by the society, that we're all social constructs. But you were in a society telling you that you should all look the same, you should not stand out, you should not, if you wear makeup, you'll be beaten by the Red Guard. And yet, after that entire upbringing, you see an American movie, and your fundamental humanity recognizes what beauty is, recognizes something pleasing, recognizes that dress is beautiful on that woman. I just think that's really incredible. Because
that's absolutely, you have no idea that I grew up in an environment that's totally devoid of beauty. Absolutely devoid of beauty. And because beauty was condemned as bourgeois, bad, and proletarian is good. Proletarian is what? It's being poor, it's not even real proletarian, but being coarse. If you curse, it's good. And that we see the same thing happening here in America. And so reject class. Class is bad, and we want to be the dirt poor peasant. That's everyone's goal, is to be more like a proletarian as possible. And so, to see that was like a mind boggling. They can be so beautiful. You feel like that's just a very, very a basic thing, but we did not have even that. So we were all become, just one of the masses. That's what you want to be. You want to be one of the masses. You don't want to stand out. And so that was the turning point. And I started to, and then we were told that if you always think everything from the West is good, you are. So now we use the word phobia, right? And xenophobia. No, in China, it's the other word. Then you admire everything. You are shameless. You are not patriotic because you admire everything in the West. And I said, I do admire everything in the West. I think their life is better, and they look beautiful, and then everything is like in another planet. They have cars, they have highways that we never had those things. So I think from that point on, I start to to doubt everything I was told. But little by little, I really realized that my whole life at that point was a big lie. So it's not one event; it's just little things.
Yeah.
And set me on the journey to learn more. But I have to say that my understanding of Chinese communism really took place after I came here. After I started to read books or materials or videos and whatever from outside China. At that time, a lot of them from Hong Kong and Taiwan. I learned things I did not even know. I did not know why Mao launched the Cultural Revolution. I never questioned it. I was in it. And I thought that's Mao's design, that must be good. And it was later, much, much later, that I learned it's all about power. So I was learning my experience when I come here. And so it's not like because you experience something, you understand it. I had no clue. I was in the middle of this chaos, this revolution. I had no understanding why it took place, why it was the way that it took place. I just never even questioned.
The path we're on right now in America and the West, it has echoes of everything you've talked about, right? And the self-hatred, the rewriting our history to always be negative, the constant criticism with nothing constructive offered in return. So we have the 1619 Project and all these things that attempt to say America is a terrible place and born in horror and slavery and monstrous, uniquely so, which is the part that's a fundamental lie. Everywhere had slavery. America actually was one of the early places to fight a war to abolish it, actually. But it doesn't seem like we will, in the worst case, I guess the worst case scenario would be literally we just end up with Hassan Piker as the new Mao. But I imagine that something else will happen in the bad path. Like as we sit here, and we can choose to keep getting more and more communistic, or start to turn around from the path we're on. And on the path towards being more and more communistic in the United States and in Western Europe, how do you have a sense of like what that will look like, or like what you're seeing happen that makes you worried beyond what was obvious in 2020 was very extreme with all the riots and the cancel culture, but all of the like Marxist professors, the schools of education that pump out ignorant teachers that are obsessed with identity politics and race and sex and dividing people and being divisive, and what do you imagine? What is your worst fear for where America goes if we don't learn the lessons of Mao's China?
Yes, I worry a lot. I absolutely worried, and that I would say it is the indoctrination. The indoctrination absolutely changed the people's worldview. I think in America today, the dominant worldview is Marxist worldview. It's no longer biblical. I saw the change since I came here in mid-1980s. I saw this change. I think today, it's become dominant. I think even the conservatives, a lot of them look through the lens that is basically Marxist. And how to fix this problem? And we have to understand this problem did not occur overnight. It took them decades, not 17 years as a Mao, but decades. Yeah. So
very explicitly too. Very explicitly. They were very explicit. The Marxist turn in education, they documented it James Lindsay, who's been a guest on the
Yes.
show, wrote the foreword for your book. He's
Yes.
laid this stuff out, I think, very accurately. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the solution of the problem? It's the same thing: anti-indoctrination or re-education, whatever you call it. We have to restore our education. We have to restore the real version of history. So here's something I think it's really interesting. I think once people know the real history, they will start to question the dominant narrative. So in China, the CCP divided China into like a two: before and after. Before is 1949. That's called old society. After 1949 is the new society. So we were taught anything happened in the old society was evil. It's just evil. Everything was bad, and because of the CCP, we got rid of that old society. We entered this new society, and even though the new society, everything was not really what they promised, but we were taught it's better. It's just better. So old is bad, new is good. Okay, but in America there is a different tactic how they teach history. Before that was slavery, that was Jim Crow, and that was how we treated Indians. But there was no after. The after was erased. The after is that the slaves were freed, and the slaves now, the former slaves now become become the member of the society, and they have the equal protection of the law. And no, but there's no after. So we're stuck in the past. I thought that was really fascinating, don't you think? There's no past. It's always the before.
You're touching on something very, very true. I didn't realize that dichotomy but yeah, you hear the modern woke people talk, the race and the race obsessed, identity obsessed people. It's as if nothing has changed in America since Reconstruction. It is as if the civil rights movement never happened. We haven't had a black president that got reelected with handily. None of that happened.
No.
The past 100 years is
in
just,
the past.
It's like memory hold. The past 100 years. No. There was redlining at some point in the distant past, and that's why I can't afford a house or something. Like everything's up. It's especially weird because it's easier to erase the distant past, and yet that's not.
I know. So in China, I'm telling you, I have no idea about the old society. I just know it's bad. It's evil. And then after I came out, I started to get information about the so-called evil old society. I started to say, I never even questioned, because the CCP will say the old society was so bad. The nationalist government, the government that they defeated, that fled to Taiwan, was so evil that they control the media, that we only can have a few newspapers. And I did not even think you could only have a few newspapers. But in the CCP's China, none can have any newspaper except the CCP's newspaper, right? And they say that they assassinated progressive people, progressive leaders or figures in the old society. Those government is really evil. But I never even questioned. But you don't have to assassinate them. You drag them out, public execution. In CCP's China, right? But I just never make that connection because I just bought this, just wholesale bought it, past bad, today's good, and period. End of the story. And so there is something else I really want to make a point of. So I came here, and by the time I came here, I hate communism. I hate communist China. I hate everything about it. And so I came here, and so I want to be American, even though I don't know exactly what it meant. But I wanted to be American so much. But and of course, I married American, and that helped a lot. But I just have to say, the process of assimilation was long, and it's not easy. I made a conscious decision to want to be American by studying American history, I like to travel. Whenever I travel, I make sure I always include places of historical importance, because I want to really immerse myself into this culture. And now today, I say I've become more American. I've been here longer than I was in China. I absolutely an American. But this did not happen to everyone. That is something I really want to point out. People like me experience the exact same thing and indoctrinated by CCP. They came to America and they get indoctrinated again. Many of them, not just a small number. And they were indoctrinated by the cultural Marxism, by the Democratic Party. They came here and they were taught that they're victims because they're not white. And in this country, they don't like immigrants like you. So you'll come to my party, I'll protect you. There were so many Chinese came here, never really try to assimilate. And they automatically vote for the Democratic Party. They are savior. They are protector. So that is a very, very sad fact that there are people who lived through communism and came here that could not tell that there is another form of communism. It is not quite exactly like what you experience in China, but it is communism. It's cultural Marxism. And it's progressiveness, it's leftist, whatever name you call it. So they got indoctrinated again. And so that is something, and I feel really, really strong about. And I think I not only have to wake up Americans, I also have to wake up a lot of Chinese. They have been here a long time. They go to work. Yeah, they speak English, but and then after that they really just associate or socialize with other Chinese, and they just feel like they are not part of this society. It's very sad.
America is very distinct in our relationship with immigration because there almost nobody except for the Native Americans are, have their lineage here. And of course, if you go all the way back to the Mayflower, fair enough, right? But we are very much an immigrant country that was first overwhelmingly, obviously, British and European, and that's our roots, that's our heritage as Americans. But then, I'm Italian descent completely, so all of my ancestors, came here in the 1920s, and we have these two things happening. On one hand, as I've observed it, and I've traveled a fair amount, I think we integrate immigrants into this country better than probably any other country on planet Earth.
Absolutely. I traveled a lot. I know that as a fact. But something happened. So, when I came here, there's no assimilation class. I just want to be American. But later, I came here in 1986. A few years later in the 1990s, and this new term come along, multiculturalism. And in the beginning, I did not see anything wrong with it. I thought it's kind of funny, but I did participated a lot of the company or school sponsored multicultural day. So I cooked some Chinese meal, contributed. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, if I liked my culture that much, why do I bother to come here? And now I know. Now we all know why.
Yeah.
Why? The multiculturalism is basically an anti-assimilation project. They want all of us to remain in the tribes. And so basically not assimilate, basically just remain Chinese, remain Somali. And they have been so successful. And so that is a real problem we are dealing with. Massive immigration, but no assimilation. Not only no assimilation, anti-assimilation, because being American is being white, and that's racist. That's bad. And so that's what we are dealing with today. And I think that it goes back, at least in my experience, multiculturalism.
When I was in college and I went to Penn State, and it was the late 90s. It's funny because there was a little bit of multiculturalism talk. I didn't get hit over the head with it, actually, looking back. And I think maybe it was almost like a little bit of like towards the tail end of it, because there was two waves of this poison. There was that early 90s wave of multiculturalism and political correctness. And then there was a backlash. This is like the original, Bill Maher had his show Politically Correct on TV, Politically Incorrect, because that was part of the wave of backlash to this. And then the monsters just sort of dug in and just found a way to make it even more extreme. But it does seem like the attack today is about undermining any sense of national pride.
Yes.
It's something. Talk to me about how you understand that, because saying
it's anti-America.
Yeah.
That's it. It's anti-America, because multiculturalism is never about America. It's about China, about Peru, whatever. Bring some chicken. I bring some stir fry, but never it's about America. And now today it's come to the extreme. And of DEI, CRT, all this is related. It's all the same string of cultural Marxism. But today, we have people like Jennifer Welch. White people have no culture, and because she bought into this this white guilt, and to her, it shows she's absolutely. And have you heard this word 白左? 白左 is a word that from China. The Chinese, not Chinese here in America, but Chinese in China, mocking the white lefty. And it basically means a white lefty, and because they find them really not only stupid but just lunatic. So
wait, what is it? Wait, say this word again. I'm going to need to adopt this into my lexicon. What is the word?
白左.
白左.
BAI ZOU.
ZOU. 白左. Yeah. So this is the woke, self-hating, like white urban lefty, like the awful types.
Absolutely. Yeah. This become actually a lot of people know about this term, and I use it as often as I can, because Welch is the perfect example of 白左. Hate everything about the American culture, because she equates American culture as a white culture. So, and self-hate. And for this, I think that is exactly what happened in China. It's not the hate of being white, but the hate of being part of the wealthy. So because if your family was wealthy, you were labeled as the black class. So everyone has a label. So you don't want to, you really don't want to have anything to do with your ancestor or just your parents who own some land or who had just a little bit more than their neighbors, and they were labeled as the black class, and you want to have as little to do with them, and you denounce them, and you become part of the proletariat. That means talk course and act no manner. All this is good because that is part of being the right class. The class is the proletarian. It's like here, denounce anything that's American or call it white. And it's just like the mayor of the Minnesota was trying to eat the Somali food and pretend that he was enjoying it. Yeah, trying to be part of the proletarian. So in the classic Marxism, the original sin is wealth. Even though your wealth was taken, you're stuck with it. That's your original sin. In the cultural Marxism and the race Marxism, the original sin is being white.
Yeah,
it's the same idea. It's just a different adaptation.
Yeah, it really is just to not be charitable, but just to be frank, it's just a sort of satanic cult. It's a completely materialist, dehumanizing cult that it just treats people as being instrumental, that they have no inherent dignity or value. I can judge them on the basis of some criteria that's not about who they are. So it's your privilege, it's your race, your identity, it's your income. I mean, the income ones are especially funny because in a country that, like, look, there's plenty of corrupt people of every kind. But if you've actually managed to earn a certain amount of success, that is actually a sign in general still that you have good behaviors and good qualities. So the old economic Marxism is the most idiotic of them all in a certain sense, because you're literally punishing good behavior. But the new Marxism,
for the black kids, if they are good in school, they are good with good grades, they're acting white.
Oh, right? Yes.
Yeah.
This is unfortunately a very common. It's a very pathological, hate-filled ideology. I just spent the better part of a week over Thanksgiving at a school in London called Michaela. It's a woman, Catherine Burblesing, that is the founder of the school. The school is overwhelmingly black and brown kids, mostly Muslim, mostly immigrants. She holds them to an enormously high standard. They are taught about proper history, which means they are taught to appreciate and love Great Britain because it's worthy of love and appreciation as one of the great powers and one of the probably most benevolent empires the world has ever seen until the American one. And these kids are just tremendous, and they're held to incredibly high standards. Everything about what she does with these kids sets them up to succeed and flies in the face of the progressive ideology, which is just ironic because the progressives claim that these are exactly the people they care about. These young brown kids from North Africa, they claim they care about these kids. And yet their ideas doom them to a life that is miserable, that is permanent victimhood, which is just another way of saying miserable, because when you feel like you have no control over your life, you're miserable, and failure. It's just an ideology of failure. And I think we have to make the strongest case we can against it. But I also think at this point, we need to mock it. We need to laugh at it. We need to treat it as not really legitimate. And at the same time, because like these people are not serious people. They don't have serious ideas. They're worthy of laughing at them. I think like
those are the people. I think those people that you're talking about, those people are those who think they are in the right camp. They are on the right side of history. But those in power, they know what's going on. They are serious. They are serious. They have an army of useful idiots, like those people you describe. And then now they have a half a country. Basically, 2024, half of the country voted for communism. And now in New York City, they choose a communist to be their mayor. That's serious matter. And that is absolutely, to me, a threaten the survival of our republic.
As we start to wrap up, what do you say to the person that tries to draw these subtle distinctions? Oh, how dare you? Zohran Mamdani is not a communist, even though he talks about seizing the means of production, which is out of the Communist Manifesto. He's a democratic socialist. He's not a Maoist. He's a Democrat. How do you respond to these types of arguments?
I try to tell people this all the time. When I grew up, I have a pretty good Marxist education, right? My growing up in China, my first 20 years was indoctrination. And I know Marxism pretty well. And so according to Marxism, okay, so socialism is the initial stage of communism. Socialism leads to communism. So socialism, communism is the same thing. Okay, it's the same thing. You can add some adjective. Democratic socialism is still socialism. Now they have a new party, revolutionary communism. It's still communism. Progressive is communism. Leftist is communism today. Today, I'm talking about today. Democratic Party is a communist party. That's where we're today. That is no joking that we have, that, as I said earlier, the America's dominant worldview has transformed into Marxist worldview, and a lot of people don't even recognize it.
As we're sitting here, there's a video of a congressional candidate, or he might be running. He's running for something at the state level here in Texas, a young Democrat. He talks about being a Christian as if that's supposed to be like a new moderate thing to be, is to actually be openly Christian while being a Democrat. But the video the video that's making the rounds is him saying, there's only 1%, there's only one minority that's making Americans' lives horrible and making everyone's worse. It's billionaires.
Yes, I heard that.
There's no explanation of, look, you could make certain arguments that certain people have like gone after policies that do make people's lives worse. But the notion that if you are a billionaire by default, that's because you've made other people's lives worse, that's just communism, right?
This is something I really have to emphasize. So far, we talk a lot about cultural Marxism. Cultural Marxism is basically use race, the marginalized people, this intersectionality, right?
Yes.
Put people in groups, and put them in what kind of group? Victim group.
Yeah.
But now there is a comeback of the classic Marxism that is class-based. That is what you hear from Bernie Sanders, and we hear it from Mamdani, and now we hear it from this. I can't remember his name, but I saw that clip. This is really bothering to me, because classic Marxism is the class-based Marxism, did not work in the United States because capitalism created enough wealth and created a huge middle class. And no one wanted to join the revolution to overthrow capitalism. But now they're talking about the class. Why? They have successfully created a proletarian class. First, those are the class that are dependent on the government. And those are the welfare class. And now they import tens of millions of new proletarian from the third world. And now they have big enough a class. Now it's called proletarian, or the new proletarian, I call that, the new proletarian. Now they start to talk about class Marxism. Plus, race Marxism and cultural Marxism. So now they're joined force, and now they talk about affordability, right? Affordability. And so this is something we have to be aware. Now it is more than just cultural Marxism. It's everything Marxism now attacking our system and seek to destroy it.
You said earlier in the conversation that you see Marxist language and ideas even sort of across the right and among many conservatives. Dig into that. What are you seeing? What do you mean? What do you mean specifically there? I agree with you. I agree with you. But I'm curious to hear
I'll give you a quick example. I went to a major campaign in rally in Virginia a few years ago, and the candidate was very popular, and so he said, this is a country, he was citing the Declaration of Independence, oh man. Oh, and women were created equal. Okay, so why would he do that? It's because he bought into this cultural Marxism, and he absolutely self-censor. And we see this in too many conservatives. They try to talk politically correctly. And that's why I love Trump. I just listened to his speech in Pennsylvania. He absolutely called a spade, even though, it sounds kind of rough, but sounds like music to my ears.
Now, in fairness, I get where you're coming from with that. I think maybe you're being a little harsh on the guy that just wants to be a little more. I know. I realize I'm going to say this, and you're going to be like, no, you've been taken. Like using a more inclusive language, so to speak.
When you do that, you give in. I hate that. When they started to basically play by the rule set by the communists, they gave in. They absolutely gave in.
This is one of the things that has always been interesting to me in talking to first generation immigrants to this country. Because I was in a cab with in Washington, in D.C., and I was talking to the driver going from the airport, and I asked him where he was from because he had his English was weak, but no, I mean it was fine. His English was fine, but he had a strong accent. He said he was from Cambodia, so I asked him. I said, "So what do you think of these?" Young college students that say they want America to adopt socialism. And his response was, they should all be taken into the public square and executed. Now,
okay.
No, I'm not.
You probably heard about that clip is going viral of Vietnamese Americans talking about the Somalian. So you heard about.
Yes.
This is something I have to really say. I have the highest respect for. I don't know that many Cambodians, but I know a lot of Vietnamese. We have a huge community here. They are the firmest or the most firm anti-communists. And people say, well, Chinese too, because they suffer from communism. But there is a difference. Those people, the first generation of Vietnamese coming here, they came here after fighting the communists directly.
Yeah.
And they remain that way. They remain anti-communists. But many Chinese come from China. People like me and people like I described, they came here after being indoctrinated by communism for so long. Some survived. I did. Some never did. They get indoctrinated again by a new type of Marxism.
Let me say this. I think, he said this, and I laugh, although I don't laugh in the sense that I think we are a country of free speech. The First Amendment, which includes the protection to espouse communism if you're a citizen, as much as I despise that, is part of what we hold up as Western values. How should I say this? If you believe in freedom of speech, you believe fundamentally that ideas that survive will only survive if they can stand on their own 2 feet in the open battle of ideas. And that if they can't, they probably won't survive. And I do think that that's true. I think that that's something that if we give up on that, the path to hell is inevitable. There is something else going on that I think we have to take seriously about political movements to actively invite people to immigrate and make no demands on them to assimilate, and in fact tell them, welcome to America. America sucks. You don't need to assimilate. In fact, if you really want to be enlightened and progressive, you should hate the country you just moved to just as much as the rest of us do that just graduated from Brown or Harvard or Columbia. And that is like civilizational suicide. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm very pro-immigration. I'm more pro-immigration in general than the current right of center, the current American right. And I say that all the time on the show, and so be it. And people will be in the comments and be like, oh, I don't like that. That's fine. But I don't want people here that hate the country. That's just crazy. Like bringing people in who hate the country is crazy. Well, how do you think about this right now?
I absolutely put the blame on the American progressives, the Democratic Party, the American leftists, the American communists, the American Marxists. They are the ones and that encourage and indoctrinated the immigrants. I believe that Ilhan Omar was indoctrinated here. I believe that she got all her ideas from her party, from probably, I don't know her story too much, and she went to college here probably. And she was probably absolutely got all these ideas from her professors. So I think they are the one to be blamed. They are the problem of, they are the source of our problems. So I really think a lot of the immigrants came here and they probably want to be part of American culture, and they were encouraged. They were rewarded not to be. They're rewarded to be part of the party that hate America. So I think the Democratic Party is the problem.
You said you love Trump and he's brash and he punches hard. He said some, and there's a part of that I like. There's a part of it where I think he crosses the line from a just like, you're the president of the United States, sir, please. One example, you mentioned, to play off of the Ilhan Omar talk, the president recently said, Somalia is garbage. Now, as a country, it's a failed state. So while garbage is kind of a yucky way to say it, it is a horrendous failed state that's been in a permanent state of civil war over sectarian Islamic violence. So it's a failed state. It's a catastrophe. It's a horrible place. It's at the bottom. It's like number 180 out of 180 countries on measured corruption. It sucks. Somalia sucks. So I'm not offended necessarily when he calls the country garbage, although I don't like that use. I think it's crass. Then he said the people are garbage, and I think that starts to cross a line.
Yeah.
And I think so. There's two things. Given your some of the partisanness here, I want to just get you to react to and be thoughtful about. One is that this sort of grouping people. It's not good. Like that's not the president doing what we should want our president to do, I don't think. He can call out Ilhan Omar for being an America hater and being more loyal to Somalia. That's all legit. He can call out the billions of dollars of just outright fraud from these people who are sending it back to Boko Haram. Like that's all legit. Calling the whole group of people garbage is not legit. And the other piece in my criticism of the president, who I voted for and who I actually met at Mar-a-Lago. We put videos up here. So it's like I'm in the movement, so to speak, to a point. is he's like taking stakes in companies. He's being kind of socialistic. I don't think he's especially ideological, but there's been a lot of stuff. He's taken a cut of NVIDIA chips. He took a stake in Intel. Each one of these, there's been like a lot of stuff that's like, you're really undermining the argument for capitalism, aren't you? React to all of that as someone who's a fan of the president and clearly a fighter yourself.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's true that as a president, he probably should be more measured with his words. But at the same time, I just had enough of the left trashy America. Absolute trash. They feel free, like Ilhan Omar, the white man are the threat facing America. They feel free. And they never hold accountable. So, but I think when they go low, we go high. I guess, yeah.
Sometimes we have to go low, but the going low should. I don't know. We got to think real hard about this stuff because it can be a Hatfield and McCoy spiral to hell real fast.
I know. But one thing I do have to say, I think what you said about president, I think probably I haven't looked into all these programs that you talk about that he tried to give favor to certain corporation. I think probably all true. But to me, one of the most important thing is he understands. It's so important he understands the threat of communism, and especially communism from China. And that will be basically the topic of my new book, and the title is "Made in America," and it's a long subtitle, but the subtitle is "The Hidden History: How the U.S. Enabled Communist China and made it our made it our greatest threat." It's too long a title, but we have to use the long title, and I can't even remember myself. And so that to me is the most important thing. And because not since Nixon, but since the very beginning, and United States never really truly understands communism. And that's why they become the enabler, knowingly or unknowingly. And this piece of important history is hidden. And most people, like even the political leaders, don't understand. So for that, I think Trump, to me, is the first one, the very first one who understands the threat of the CCP and is doing something about it. So
I think that's,
and I can overlook the others because
I get it.
No one is perfect, but to me, this is the most important thing.
Well, this is the reality of politics, which is why politics should play as small a role in life as possible. Is we were given a choice between Trump and Harris. It's just like a joke. It's like, oh, like a basket case social climbing moron or Trump.
But also Trump understands the threat of communism from within. I think that is the first time ever. I know that Reagan was a strong anti-communist.
Yes, I was going to ask.
He brought down the evil empire, but he was somehow failed to understand the threat from communist China. And so for that, I think Trump is the first one ever to understand the threat, and not just from China, but from within. And he's doing a lot to stop it, such as DEI. And call out the political correctness, call out race Marxism, and that's exactly what we need now, because we're in a very, very critical moment, and then it's really about the survival of this country, and the threat is communism.
That's a great place for us to wrap up. This has been a lot of, I hesitate to say fun because so much of your story is so monstrously horrific, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're speaking out. It has been fun to have you on the show. Hopefully we'll meet up in person at some point soon. I ask this question of every guest, especially when they're first time on the show, which is this show is called Dad Saves America. First of all, because I think America is good and worth saving. And because I think as a father, as a man, being a father is a heroic thing that we can do to try to help save the country. It's something that we need more of. We're a country that has too much fatherlessness, and I think that's a big part of our problems in our culture. And so I think it's a role that's heroic. How do you think about your role in the American story?
Well, maybe I should have my own show, Immigrants Save America. I think that is, I really feel like this is my moment. I came all the way here, never understood what I'm supposed to do. Now I know. I'm here to save America by telling American people the story of real communism, of the horror of communism, and tell them that what's going on here in America is the history repeating. Only when people learn about real history can they understand the threat. You can't say, let's save America when they don't know what's wrong with America. So I think through education, that's why I love your show. And you get a lot of views and the people love you. I can see the comment. Education. That's what we need to do, to educate people, to teach them real history and for the love of the country, and let them understand how special, how precious this gift is. And it's in our hands. And it will be us to decide whether we let it slip our fingers or save it for future generations.
Hear, hear. She Van Fleet, thanks for being on Dad Saves America.
Thank you for having me.